Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. So a few days ago I saw a video on YouTube. It was Bombardier's Goodbye to the World, and I was heartbroken. And so I made a few posts around kind of lamenting the loss of Bombardier, and maybe I shouldn't have been surprised, but I was a bit surprised that so many people really truly thought Bombardier was this terrible company. And so I wanted to make this video to tell you why I'm sad and why I think more people should be unhappy that we lost Bombardier in Canada. If you're not already, please consider following me on Twitter at RMTransit. It's a great place to stay up to date with transit news and posts from me. So if you didn't already know, Bombardier Transportation, who was headquartered in Germany but kind of operated from Canada, has now been acquired officially. The deal has closed and it's now part of Alstom. And so when I was on Wikipedia on Friday and I looked up Bombardier Transportation, I saw Bombardier Transportation was, and I thought, that's sad. So if you didn't already know, Bombardier Transportation, who was headquartered in Germany but kind of operated from Canada, has now been acquired officially. The deal has closed and it's now part of Alstom. And so when I was on Wikipedia on Friday and I looked up Bombardier Transportation, I saw Bombardier Transportation was, and I thought, that's sad. Of course, the deal had been announced like almost a year ago and it's been kind of slowly moving along, and it's just sad to see it finally happen. So why does it matter that Bombardier Transportation and that section of the company, which is now reduced to making jets for rich people, why is it sad that that doesn't exist anymore? Well, the thing is, Bombardier created a ton of fantastic rolling stock. We're talking high-speed rail trains in Italy and China, fantastic metro trains across Canada and in some cities in the US and in Europe as well, regional trains, commuter trains in much of North America, automated people movers. It created a ton of rolling stock. And to be fair, a lot of these products were not actually bad products. I think something you see a lot is new rolling stock getting introduced and there's like door issues or something along those lines, and people immediately say like, oh, this is a terrible product or something. And I've been looking at a lot of lists where people kind of list minor issues like that as if it's a fatal flaw in a product. And it's a little disingenuous because these sort of hiccups, they exist a lot of the time when you start using a new form of rolling stock on a system. Not always, but a lot of the time. And it doesn't mean that a product is fatally flawed. For example, the Toronto Rocket subway trains in Toronto are great. They had door issues initially with regard to like cycling and stuff, but it's been fixed and they're great subway trains. Do I think they look as good as they could? No, but they're good trains. The same can be said in Vancouver, where the Sky trains are fantastic, or for the trains in Montreal, or for a lot of other Bombardier products. In fact, Bombardier produced large and successful orders for a ton of different cities around the world, like San Francisco, New York City, London, Delhi, Shanghai. Tons of major cities used high-quality Bombardier products, and even products that we love to kind of hate in Canada, like the new streetcars for Toronto. They were a kind of bespoke custom solution that had production issues, but Bombardier still delivered all of the streetcars by the time they said they would, and they were busy fixing the issues that exist in the fleet as it is now. Now, one of the things I saw a lot of comments about was that Bombardier is a terrible company, or something along those lines in less polite language. And I think that's ridiculous and a little narrow-sighted. The truth is, Bombardier had a number of problems in recent years with orders in New York, London, and the Toronto streetcar order. But to suggest that just because they had some problems with a few orders, that they are a bad company is a little silly. Look at Apple, for example. In the 1990s, was Apple a terrible company because their products weren't as good as they were back in the 80s when they introduced the original Macintosh? Is Hyundai a terrible company because for years they struggled to make a high-quality car? No, these companies stuck through it and eventually became great companies. Apple now being the most valuable company in the world, despite having tons of problems back in the 90s. It's also a bit of a distortion factor. You really only hear about the projects that go wrong, and not the projects that go right. And if you read the Toronto Star a lot, you'd probably think that Bombardier was a terrible rolling stock manufacturer. All you hear in the news is delay, 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 streetcar order this, streetcar order that. even if it's the same news item being repeated a ton of times. So as a reminder, despite the fact that in Toronto generally, Bombardier mainly only had this problem, we continue to just hammer them and treat them like they should be eliminated from the face of the earth and say that we hope they fail and stuff, despite them being a Canadian company. I also saw a particular note that was something along the lines of, because Bombardier got a bailout, it wasn't actually the train division, but whatever. Because Bombardier got a bailout, it's just a bad company, you know, it should fail, right? The truth is that if you look up bailouts for major train manufacturers, you'll find out that a lot has gone on with Alstom, Siemens, and Hyundai Rotem. Of course, Alstom, actually similar to Bombardier, got banned from the "it should fail," right? The truth is that if you look up bailouts for major train manufacturers, you'll find out that a lot has gone on with Alstom, Siemens, and Hyundai Rotem. Of course, Alstom, actually similar to Bombardier, got banned from the New York City transit procurement process because they also had issues with their rolling stock. And let's not forget all of the issues Hyundai Rotem had in North America with commuter rail cars and the Silverliners. And to be fair too, it's not like other companies don't get tons of support from their local governments. Companies like Siemens and Hyundai Rotem are good companies that produce a lot of good rolling stock. But you don't see a lot of rolling stock that isn't Siemens in Germany and that isn't Hyundai Rotem in Korea. And that's natural. Other countries are very willing to protect large companies that have a lot of institutional impact, and they create a lot of positive economic impacts as well as knowledge about the rolling stock industry in these countries. I think it's obvious that part of the reason why Korea and Germany have such good rail systems is because they have such successful rail manufacturers. When you have a good train builder, it's likely you're going to be good at building train tracks and electrification, etc. Of course, it's not a guarantee, as we see in Canada, but it's definitely something that helps. Now, something we don't seem to pick at enough from casual observers and news media, and yeah, I know, being critical of the news media isn't the greatest thing in these times, but at the end of the day, it is true. The news does not always portray the world in a fully accurate sense, and that's something that's impossible, but I think people treat news as this infallible thing that's always right and always accurate, and don't kind of consider it in a broader context. If you were just going off these sources, what you'd think is that Bombardier is uniquely bad and other train manufacturers are great. But if you look at Ontario, you'd quickly learn that that's far from true. Look in Ottawa's case, where Alstom's new Citadis Spirit trains have had tons of problems. Door issues, electrical issues, signaling issues. The signaling issues could be Alstom or Thales. But it's clear that the trains are not perfect and had a ton of problems. But then again, you never heard news stories saying, we hope that the French government gets rid of Alstom, or we should never order Alstom trains again because we could order from another foreign company. There's this different treatment that companies outside of Canada get from companies that are ostensibly Canadian. And I don't necessarily think that Bombardier deserves or should get special treatment, but we don't even hold them on a level playing field. Even better, a lot of the time you'll hear things like, we should just get rolling stock from Japan. And that's actually something we did in Toronto. The Up Express trains are from a Japanese company, Nippon Sharyo, who has created some good rolling stock products. But the Up Express trains are technically pretty bad. They've had engine fire issues, signaling issues, door issues, and they're not particularly attractive, to say the least. So this idea that if we just got trains from a different company or from a different country, we would never have these problems, is kind of the same as a lot of the other issues you see in transit. It's a lot easier to just say, we hope this company will fail because we clearly can't do it properly, than to suffer through your challenges and your difficulties and come out on the other side with a better product, as you see with Hyundai Rotem, or as you see with Alstom and Siemens when they had large problems. And this all builds the ultimate question of, why was it even valuable to have Bombardier in Canada in the first place? Well, first of all, Bombardier had a number of factories throughout Canada. They made rolling stock in Vancouver, they have factories in Thunder Bay, in Kingston, and in Quebec, so they employ a lot of Canadian workers. Now, sure, it's totally possible that Alstom or whoever supersedes Bombardier in various cities' fleets will just reuse these factories, but I wouldn't be so sure that's going to happen. If you look at the new trains for the RAM, they were manufactured basically entirely in India. And there's nothing necessarily wrong with that, but if it was Bombardier, you know, it was a bit more likely that the government could put pressure on them and say, no, you should manufacture the trains in Canada. And to be clear, I don't necessarily think policies where you say the train has to be manufactured here are always great. For example, I think Buy America has had a ton of negative impacts. At the same time though, in Canada, the case is a bit different. We had a ton of established rolling stock development knowledge, and just throwing it away into the wind so that trains can be manufactured in different places is a little unfortunate. And while Alstom will still have a significant presence in Quebec at least, it doesn't seem like the same thing will be coming to Ontario. I should mention that Alstom is doing final manufacture of Ontario's LRVs in Brampton, but again, this is all something that we could get with Bombardier, plus we would have high-level management positions, etc. in Canada, which are incredibly important to running a functional business. And of course, having a major company like Bombardier who sells trains as something that the government is thinking about, both because they have an impact on the economy in Canada and because they employ a ton of Canadians, was a good thing. When politicians were thinking, should we refurbish these train cars or should we get something new? The fact that Bombardier could produce new train cars was a good positive influence they could have on the government. When the government was thinking, we could make a new highway or we could do some sort of express rail project, Bombardier could apply pressure to the government to say, you should go for transit, because they were a company whose interests largely lied in transit and automated people movers and rail systems. And of course there is a major soft power impact to it as well. Having a major train and previously a major airline manufacturer that created incredibly advanced products in Canada was a point of national pride, and it's something that we can no longer really say. And what's even sadder is that something I don't think a lot of people have realized yet is that it's unlikely Alstom will keep Bombardier's designs. For example, the Flexity, incredibly advanced products in Canada, was a point of national pride, and it's something that we can no longer really say. And what's even sadder is that something I don't think a lot of people have realized yet is that it's unlikely Alstom will keep Bombardier's designs. For example, the Flexity LRVs, which, well, not my favorite vehicles, they look okay. They're unlikely to keep them, because why would you keep these redundant designs that you already provide a product that fills that niche? Why would you keep those designs rather than selling them to a company who will pay a pretty penny for the same designs? So what happens to the Bombardier portfolio is it gets shot across a bunch of different companies, and there isn't that unified form that was built up by designers across numerous companies, many of whom existed in Canada. At the end of the day, this wouldn't make me so sad if it didn't feel like a trend in Canada. It's very rare to see a success story for a company that stays in Canada. It seems to be the path that either you get acquired by a company in another country or you go bust. And while I don't necessarily think operating in Canada is an easy thing, it's just sad to see us punching down and hoping for the failure of a company that was created by our fellow countrymen. Anyways, thanks for watching the video, everyone. Rest in peace, Bombardier, and I hope to see you in the next one.